Hello, my name is Tim Carpenter, and in this presentation I'm going to talk about two tools I selected using artificial intelligence to support a biology e-learning module. The AI tool that I chose was ChatGPT. Based on the prompts I entered, I ended up choosing Padlet as my collaborative learning tool and Articulate Storyline 360 as my e-learning authoring tool using learner control navigation. First, I'll explain how these tools support practice in e-learning. Padlet gives students a way to actively participate instead of just sitting and listening. They can post their ideas, answer questions, respond to classmates in real time. For example, in a biology lesson, a student could have to explain how photosynthesis works in their own words, or post a diagram of a cell and label it. What makes this really useful is that students can see how others explain the same concept, which can help things click in different ways for each student. It turns learning into more of a conversation instead of just a one-way delivery of information. Articulate Storyline 360 supports practice in a more structured, interactive way. It allows you to build things like quizzes, drag and drop activities, and even simulations. So, instead of just reading about a concept, students actually do something with the material. For example, they might complete an activity where they match cell parts with their functions or go through a short simulation of the biological process. That kind of hands-on practice really helps reinforce what they're learning. Next, we'll talk about how these tools provide feedback. With Padlet, feedback comes from both the instructor and other students. When someone posts an idea, others can comment on it, ask questions, or suggest improvements to help the project and the students learn different ways of doing things, or somewhere where they might have come up a little short. I like this because it creates a space where students can learn from each other and not just from their teacher. It also helps students reflect on their own understanding when they see different responses from their classmates or comments from their instructor. Articulate 360 Storyline provides immediate feedback, which is a big advantage. When students answer a question, they instantly see if they got it right or wrong, and they usually get an explanation as to why they got it wrong. That quick response helps students catch mistakes right away instead of moving forward with the wrong idea or the wrong thought process. In my opinion, that kind of instant feedback is really important, especially in subjects like biology where concepts build upon each other. Now we'll explain how these tools support collaboration and why that matters for individual learning. Padlet is really built for collaboration. Students can share ideas, respond to each other, and build on what others have said. For example, in a discussion about ecosystems, one student might post an example and another might expand on it or challenge it. That back and forth helps create deeper understanding. Collaboration also improves individual learning because when students explain something to someone else, they usually understand it better themselves. It forces them to think more clearly about what they know. It also keeps students more engaged because they know others will see and respond to their work. And if they're not doing their job right or preparing, other people are going to see it and be able to call them out on it. Next, we'll talk about control versus program control navigation. Or learner control versus program control navigation. Learner control navigation means students can move through the content at their own pace. They can go back, review something if they didn't understand it the first time, or move ahead if they already get the information and understand completely what they're doing. I chose this approach because biology can be challenging and not everyone learns at the same speed. Giving students the flexibility makes more sense in keeping them more engaged and more enthusiastic about learning about biology. Program control navigation is more structured. The system controls what comes next, and all students follow the same path. That can be helpful in situations where you want to make sure everyone learns things in a specific order, but also doesn't quite work for people that learn at different speeds and different levels. From this, I realized the learner control is more flexible and student-centered, while program control is more structured. For my module, learner control felt like the better choice. Finally, I'll explain a few ways I can teach critical thinking skills in this module. One way is through scenario-based learning. For example, I could give students a real-world problem, like how pollution affects the ecosystem, and ask them to analyze it and suggest solutions. That gets them thinking beyond just memorizing the facts and really allows them to dig into the information and get a real understanding if they really truly know what we're talking about, what we're discussing, and that'll help them retain that as they move forward. Another method is discussion prompts on Padlet, where students have to explain their reasoning and respond to others. This pushes them to think more deeply and not just give quick one-word answers or one-phrase answers. It really makes them start to think through what they're doing. I could also include problem-solving activities or case studies in Articulate Storyline 360, where students have to apply what they've learned to new situations. That kind of practice really helps develop critical thinking skills. So in conclusion, both Padlet and Articulate 360, or Storyline 360, are strong tools for e-learning. They help students practice, give useful feedback, and encourage collaboration and supporting critical thinking. When used together, they can create a more engaging and affecting a learning experience for the student and for their long-term retention ability and applying that to their next phase of next classes. Thank you for listening, and thank you for listening to my presentation. Thank you.